Hello, everybody, and welcome to another Twilight Zone review. Today it is Season 4, Episode 5, Mute, written by Richard Matheson and starring Ann Gillian as Ilsa, Barbara Baxley as Cora Wheeler, and Frank Overton as Harry Wheeler. And this episode to me is a mixed bag. There are some really good things about Mute. The concept is very unique and interesting, and the performance of Ann Gillian in the title role of Ilsa is fantastic throughout the episode. She really makes you feel for her. However, I have some issues with the way that the story is presented, and the ending isn't fantastic either, in my opinion. So I'll get to all that as I go through the episode. So we start in Germany, and we get some background from a scientist and some other people on mental telepathy. And we get questions, especially about how this would affect a child. And we learn that there is a couple that agrees to take in a child and teach her these techniques. So then we go to America at another time, and we find out Harry and Cora are our other two main characters. They're introduced here, and Harry gets a call that there has been a fire. And what we find out is that it is the couple, and they took in a young girl named Ilsa, and it does not appear that anyone survived the fire. But then it is found out that the young girl has survived, and she's outside with no burns or anything, but something is wrong with her. They think she might be in shock because she will not speak. So Harry brings the young girl named Ilsa home, and he takes her to a room that we find out later on used to be their daughters, who sadly passed away. And they take Ilsa to this room, and you can see right away that Cora, the wife, is very attached to this little girl. And we also get some well-done scenes throughout the episode, which start now from Ilsa's point of view, where she sees and understands what's going on around her, even though other people do not understand, what she's thinking. I thought this was done very well. So then we go to a scene a little while later in the episode where Ilsa sees her parents pass away in the fire, so now we know for sure, and she gets distraught and falls down, and Cora comes in to comfort her. And throughout all this time, Harry thinks something's wrong with her. He's concerned. He doesn't understand why this girl wasn't in school and why she doesn't talk. So Harry and Cora decide they will have to keep the girl for a while because they can't get through to any of her relatives from Germany or anyone. So they're still trying to figure out what's going on with her. And Harry gets really upset about this because he doesn't understand what this girl's been through. He feels she's been held back. And in the meantime, Ilsa can understand all this, and she takes all this in. So Cora tries to get through to Ilsa, and she's having a hard time. But then we get a very admittedly touching scene where Ilsa, sees Cora's daughters passing away. So now Ilsa understands and relates better to Cora, and the two form a bond. So we go to the second half of the episode, and we learn that Harry is trying to write some letters to Germany to get in contact with someone about what's happened with this little girl because no one else knows. And they get in an argument as Cora wants to keep the little girl as their own because she cares about her. Harry says, it's not our place to do that. It's not our right. And this is a well-done scene. And what winds up happening is, as Harry goes off to send the letters, Cora takes them and burns them. And Ilsa sees all this. She envisions it in her head, and she gets upset, and she runs off. And she does wind up safely back at home. Thankfully, this little girl is very confused, which is believable. And a teacher comes to visit the home named Miss Frank, and this lady is a real piece of work, in my opinion. More on her in a minute. So Ilsa's not happy about this. She knows everything that's going on, of course, and she doesn't really want to go into school. But ultimately, she does go into school. And let me just talk a little bit more about this teacher. She seems to me to be a bit harsh. Maybe teachers were different back then and teaching methods were different, but this part came across as kind of dated to me. The teacher is very just strict with this girl. I mean, she brings her up basically in front of the class and tells her to say her name, and she just comes across as, like I said, I guess harsh is the word, but I think in her mind she thinks she's doing well. I'm not really sure, but a couple of things she says I do kind of question. She says that Ilsa doesn't understand what anybody else is saying, but that she's going to make her like everyone else. What happened to being an individual? Why would we want to make her exactly like everyone else? I wasn't really sure how to take this. The lady is just very strange. But then we get a scene from Ilsa which explains why she's so fearful of school, because she was taught in a different way by her father, the man that raised her. It was all visually done, so she doesn't understand why they're trying to learn with words. And you would think that the teacher at this point, isn't it her job to see that something's wrong and not push her this hard? I'm not really sure about this. But so anyway, there's this scene, another one that disturbed me a little bit, where the teacher brings Ilsa in front of the class and has all the children say her name out loud over and over, Ilsa, 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 kind of making her feel worse, I would think. I just don't see this as being a very worthy method, but maybe it pays off later on, I don't know. So now we go to the next scene, and the professor from the beginning of the episode from Germany and his wife come to town. And they're concerned about Ilsa and her talent. They're not sure what's going on because they haven't heard anything, because obviously they didn't get the letters. And Cora is very worried when she finds out they're there that she is going to lose Ilsa. So the professor and Harry have a talk about how no letters were received, and they go to the house, and they know, the professor actually knows, and his wife figure out that Cora burned the letters, but they don't say anything about it. Then we get another uncomfortable school scene, which I guess has the result the teacher wants at the end of the episode. That's all I'll say about that. I think I've talked about the school scenes enough. So then Ilsa comes home and she's introduced to the professor and his wife, and Ilsa's overwhelmed. And this is easy to understand because think about it. This young girl is kind of conflicted right now between what she's always been taught and known and this new thing with the power of speech and speaking and learning in a different way. And Ann Jillian's really good here, as she is throughout the whole episode. And what we finally learn is that Ilsa's so overwhelmed that she does speak. She starts saying her name is Ilsa over and over and over again, so maybe all that schooling combined with Cora's caring has gotten through to her, and Cora hugs Ilsa and she says she needs me and you have no right to take her. So we go to the last scene where the professor tells Harry in the car we have no right to take her, we're not family, but we really find out that he would have had the rights to take her, but they decide that she is better off staying with the family that she is now with, being Harry and Cora. And the professor's worried about this, but the wife assures him that she has gained love, which is more important than the skill of telepathy she had. So Ilsa stays with Harry and Cora and all is well, or is it? Now, I guess if you're the kind of person that just looks at the story as a touching story of a little girl overcoming the odds and fitting in, then it's a very good story. But couldn't there have been a middle ground here? If you look at this story as this little girl had a unique gift and ability, and it's taken away from her basically. She's not able to use it anymore to conform. And if you look at the story that way, it could be a little disturbing. I'm kind of torn and in between. This episode has an odd tone to it that doesn't always work for me, but there are good things about it. And the fact that it brings up any discussion or, anything thought-provoking at all makes it a somewhat effective episode. I just feel like a lot of times that there's a middle ground. Couldn't she have still used this power in some way? It seems like they've completely taken it away from her and said just because she's loved, it's okay. And I guess that's fine. It just believes really on what you believe and what you're willing to accept. So overall, I would say Mute is an average episode, and I give it a 2.5 out of 5. But I would say it's probably worth watching once to see what you think about it, as I believe opinions will vary greatly. So 2.5 out of 5 for Mute. And as always, thank you very much for watching.